Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and begin today's presentation. Before we get rolling here, I'd first like to pass the microphone over to the president of OATC, Kathy Johnson. Kathy, go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for joining this presentation today. OATC has elected to invest in Verifyle for all of our members because we believe this communications tool and system for obtaining IRS-approved signatures to be a valuable, no cost to the member benefit. I'll pass this training now back to Dana Shibley, who will show us how to use Verifyle. He'll show us specific relevant use cases and more about security. Thank you, Dana, for doing this for us today.
Thank you, Kathy, and I look forward to hearing hopefully what will be great feedback from all of your members. Okay, everyone, all of us here at Verifyle are super pleased about the new partnership that we have in place with OATC. And all of you as members of OATC should know that as members, you get access to a premium version of Verifyle, Verifyle Pro, at no charge to you or anyone at all with whom you would like to share information. You get access to all the capabilities inside of your Verifyle Pro account, including the ability to brand it as you would like, also unlimited electronic signatures capabilities. And you can access your Verifyle Pro account by clicking on the link in recent emails that you received from OATC, or you can simply go to verifyle.com and sign in for free using the email address by which OATC recognizes you to be a member. I'll say that again. If you'd like, you can simply go to verifyle.com and sign in for free using the email address by which OATC recognizes you to be a member. If you don't use that email address, then shortly you will be asked to supply a credit card number, but you shouldn't have to do that because OATC has already picked up the tab for you. Okay, so a quick caveat here. I am not a tax professional, but my goal today is to show you some general sharing examples to really stress the key concepts for use behind Verifyle. And I know that a number of you probably have diligently showed up to this presentation and you have a pen or pencil in hand and you're ready to write detailed notes and so forth. That's not the best way to get a lot of usefulness from this presentation. In fact, if you just get 2 or 3 key concepts in your head about how to use Verifyle, everything else will flow from that extremely easily. There are already a number of professionals using Verifyle for secure sharing purposes. Others are using it for secure storage purposes. Many professionals use Verifyle to share information securely and selectively with their colleagues, and others use Verifyle exclusively to share sensitive information back and forth with their clients. And still others, including me, use Verifyle to selectively store and share sensitive family or personal information. So I'll go through a number of these examples as we move forward. But first, let me give you some brief background about Verifyle. We're based in Silicon Valley, and we're led by Jack Smith, who is the individual who invented and co-founded the company Hotmail, which was many people's first experience with both email and the internet, and ultimately grew to something like 500 million users. He also had lead roles at 2 successful digital security companies, Ironport and Proximex. Verifyle is all about making communication better. And we see 2 key aspects of communication. Those are security and productivity, neither of which should come at the expense of usability. The reason we place such persistent emphasis on security is that we believe the near-term future of business will continue more and more to be characterized by those organizations and professionals who make that extra effort to protect and secure their own information and that of their constituents and continue to reap the long-term trust relationship benefits that derive from that. And those professionals who do not make that extra effort and see a gradual erosion in those trust relationships. We want to make sure that all of our users fall on the positive side of that line. So you might ask yourself, exactly what is Verifyle? Well, Verifyle is ultra secure messaging and document sharing and storage all on a single screen, where in that single screen, for each situation that you're working on, whether that be a client engagement, project management, or any kind of sharing or storage of sensitive information, you can see exactly who has access to what information and if and when any single individual has looked at or downloaded any information. So you always have a very heightened sense of situational awareness, not only in terms of what you're doing on your side of the communication, but in terms of what's happening on the other side of that communication as well. So think of Verifyle as your all-in-one communication power tool, specifically designed for those situations that you have to be absolutely on top of, that must be well organized, and above all, private and secure. Now, in our secure single screen, we've incorporated the most powerful components of email, cloud file sharing, unlimited electronic signatures, and our patented encryption key management technology, Encrypt, which manages the interaction of 6 different encryption keys for each time that any single individual interacts with any single data element inside of Verifyle. So each data element inside of Verifyle has been individually encrypted, such that even if somebody were to break past our encryption, which they won't, all they'd be able to gain access to would be that single data element, and that's it. There's no potential for someone to break into Verifyle and scoop mass amounts of data to gain bulk access, if you will, as has happened so many times in the public and private sector all across the country and also globally. So with Verifyle, there's no real incentive for someone to try and hack in the first place, because there's not that potential for a large scale gain on that hacking effort. So this is a major reduction in risk for anyone who uses Verifyle. In fact, we would say that it's a real game changer in terms of your overall information risk posture. And we'll talk more about how this impacts you as we go through today's presentation. Okay, as we go through the presentation, please bear in mind that I'll be acting as Dana Shibley, the tax professional, okay? And even though Verifyle is backed by all of this encryption, by all of this security technology, as users, we don't need to create any encryption keys, memorize any encryption keys, manage or share any encryption keys at all. It all happens completely behind the scenes for us. All right, so let's dive in and take a look at the actual demo. Okay, all of you should now be able to see the sign-in screen for Verifyle. You can access this screen using any of the major browsers. It doesn't matter whether you're using a Mac, a PC, or a tablet computer. You're also welcome to use our handy mobile app if you would like. So I will sign in using my email address and password. I'm going to click Next. Okay, and I have selected the option inside of Verifyle such that an authentication code is being requested of me. You can get this code in 2 formats. You can either have it sent to you via SMS, text, or you can have an authentication code generator on your phone, okay? We'll talk more about that in detail in just a bit. But the point here is that beyond my password, I'm being asked to provide this additional second factor of authentication, right? Extra security. And that way, if somebody gets hold of my password, that alone will not be sufficient to get into my Verifyle system. And by the way, you do have an option to click in this little box right here, and doing so effectively tells Verifyle, hey, Verifyle, if in the future there's a sign-in attempt to my account and the proper password is put in, and you can see that access attempt is coming from the device I'm using right now with the browser that I'm using right now, then there's no need to ask for that additional authentication code. All right, you can assume that it's actually me. All right, so that's an option for you as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and type in the authentication code. All right, and so now I'm into my Verifyle account. All right, the first thing you should notice here is that you can see the OATC logo up at the top of the screen here, and you can replace that with any logo of your choosing. Okay, you can do that by simply clicking your name at the top right over here and going into the account settings area and adding your own logo. We'll go into that in more detail in just a moment here. The other thing I want to point out to you is that there are two main areas of your Verifyle Pro system. Okay, that is the Workspaces area that we're in right now, and you can see that exemplified by the fact that the Workspaces tab is highlighted. Let's start out in the Contacts area. So I'm going to click on the Contacts tab up here at the top left. All right, so I click on Contacts, and here I can see my list of contacts. I can click on any one of those contacts to have a secure, private, one-to-one private messages communication with that particular individual. Okay, so here you can see I just picked an example outside of your industry here, but here I can have a one-to-one private communication with Paul Physician using the private messages. All right, I can type any message that I want to here to Paul Physician, and I can click on the paperclip symbol right here to upload and securely share any file or files that I would like with Paul as well. But let's go into a more realistic situation for all of you. What I'm going to do is, let's say I meet a new person, and that person's name is Christine Carson. I want to start a communication with Christine Carson. How do I do that? Just like you might guess, I go up to the Contacts tab and I click on the plus symbol right here. Okay, so I'm going to type in Christine's name and email address, like that. Okay, and there I have started a private messages area with Christine Carson where I will type a message to her. So I type a message to her, and let's say I decide to upload a file to her as well. So I click on the paperclip symbol here, very intuitive, and I click on annuity policy. I bring in the annuity policy document, and then I click send. And Verifyle, behind the scenes, encrypts this information as it's pulled into Verifyle. Okay, and I can see the annuity policy expanded on over here where I can do some things to it, but we'll dive into that in just a bit here. The important thing is that as I added this information to Verifyle and it was encrypted, behind the scenes, Verifyle automatically sent an email alert to Christine Carson that lands in her old-fashioned email box. And that email alert lets her know that I, Dana Shibley, the tax professional, of course, right, using the secure system Verifyle, am sharing with her in Verifyle an annuity policy document and also a private message. Okay, she can't access any of that from that email alert, right? And that is because email is not secure. We don't want to be sending sensitive information back and forth via email. But she can click on the link in that email alert, which will bring her into Verifyle, where she can create her own password and instantly access this information. She'll see the message, hello, Christine, or whatever I've typed in here, and she will be able to either view or download the annuity policy document as she would like. And I will receive an alert letting me know that she has accessed that document. That alert will be logged, so I'll always know how many times she's accessed that particular document and when she's looked at it. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this from Christine Carson's perspective. Okay, so I'm now going to sign in as Christine Carson. I would have received an email alert letting me know that Dana Shibley is sharing with me a message and also a file. Okay, so I'm in as Christine Carson. And by the way, if for some reason I don't like clicking on links in email, I, Christine Carson, could simply go to verifyle.com in order to access this information. Okay, so as Christine Carson, I'm in Verifyle. I also see an internal alert here, and I click on it, and I can see that Dana Shibley has shared with me a message and also an annuity policy document, which I can take a look at or download as I would like. Okay, all right. And I can see it over here as well. I can expand it and do a number of things. We'll dive into that in just a few minutes here. All right, so I received this information from Dana, and so I'm going to type a message back to Dana. Thanks, Dana. And please bring my husband into this communication as well. Okay, and I, Christine Carson, the potential client, also have the ability, of course, to click on the paperclip symbol here and easily upload and securely share any file I would like back to Dana. All right, so as Christine Carson, I click send here. Okay, now let's go back and look again as Dana. All right, I'm back in as Dana, the tax professional, and I can see the message that Christine shared with me, okay? And I would see any file that she shared with me as well. All right, so I went through that very laboriously because that is the core functionality, that's the basics of using Verifyle, okay? And if you can do that, right, just simply click on the plus symbol here, add a name and email address, you can communicate securely right away with anybody, all right? By the way, if you have clients who have relatively simple tax management situations, they're sharing a few documents with you, you go back and forth with them, it's pretty easy. You'll be able to work with all of those clients right out of your contacts area, just like I did. You can also get digital signatures from them and so forth, okay? So very, very easy. However, for some of your clients, you're going to need some deeper level communications where you might need to communicate with multiple people, or there might be multiple topics. For example, let's say that it's somebody who wants to bring in their estate planning attorney, and also they run a small business and they want their small business partner to be able to communicate with you as well. And maybe they own some property out of state. Okay, so you might want to have those topics, and we call those threads inside of Verifyle. You might want the information about that particular small business, and also the estate planning, and also the property out of state. You might want different people to have access to each of those topics, right? So those are all things that you can do and bring multiple people in and be completely in charge of who sees what. You can take advantage of all those capabilities in Verifyle using a workspace. And let's just say that Christine Carson has told me not only does she want to bring in her husband, but she wants to bring in her attorney, her business partner, and so forth, like I just said. Okay, so I'm going to click on the Workspaces tab, just like that. And here I can see a number of workspaces that I already have set up. These tend to be situations where I'm communicating with multiple people associated with that client or client family of mine, okay? And there's a lot of information moving back and forth. There are multiple topics, different people need to see different things, et cetera, all right? So that's what these situations are. I want such an environment in which to manage my client, Christine Carson. So I'm going to create a workspace. So I click on the plus symbol here for workspaces, and I'm going to call this new workspace Client Christine Carson, right? I'm going to end up doing a lot with her, I hope. All right, so there I've added that new workspace, Client Christine Carson. I am the host, me. Why am I the host? Because I'm the creator of this workspace. Anybody that I add in here will be a guest, okay? And I am the only one who's going to be in control of who gets added in here and who gets taken away from here. So I will click on the Client Christine Carson workspace like this. And there's nothing in here because I haven't added anything yet, but we can see the title of the workspace here. And Verifyle's prompting me to add a guest. So I'll do that to get things rolling. I click here. And let's first add in Christine Carson herself. There she is. All right, so I added in Christine Carson, and there she has been added as a guest, okay? And the Verifyle system has recognized, oh, Dana already started a private messages area with Christine Carson in the contacts area. He might still want access to that one-to-one secure stream of consciousness communication with Christine Carson in this overall workspace, okay? And remember, the reason we created this workspace in the first place was so that we could take advantage of the deeper level communication capabilities. And I can do that using workspace threads. So watch this. I'm going to click on the plus symbol, and I'm going to create a workspace thread here called tax planning. Okay. And I'm going to create another workspace thread called estate planning. Okay. And I'm going to create another workspace thread called my reference. Okay, so I've just created 3 workspace threads. They all say private. Nobody else has access to them yet. Okay, let's start out in the tax planning workspace thread, near and dear to your heart. Okay, so private, no guests have access yet. And when I click on it here, that brings this particular workspace thread front and center, tax planning, no guests have access. I need to tell the Verifyle system who's going to get access to this workspace thread. Okay, the way I do that is the following. As you move your cursor around anywhere in Verifyle, you'll see these little gear icons pop up. Okay, when things are unclear, go to the gear. Okay, I'm leaving you with that corny little jingle because it will serve you well wherever you are in Verifyle. Okay, so when things are unclear, I go to the gear. So I click on the gear symbol here, and I'm going to go to Manage Permissions to decide who's going to get access to the Tax Planning Workspace thread. Click Manage Permissions. I want Christine Carson to have access, just like that. Now she does. But remember, in the one-to-one private messages communication, she told me she wants to bring her husband into this communication as well. Easy enough. I go back to the Tax Planning Workspace thread. I do what? I go to the gear. I click Manage Permissions, and I'm going to add her husband. Now, I've never communicated with him before, so I'm going to have to add him. All right, so I will add him. Let's say his name is Sammy Spouse. Sammy@example.com. All right, and so there I can see that I've added Sammy's spouse. There we go. Okay. So now Christine Carson and Sammy's spouse are going to have access and be able to add any information they would like to this workspace thread called tax planning. I'll type a message in here. Let's do some tax planning. Okay, I'll click on the paperclip symbol here. I'll pull in some generic tax documents. Okay, how about Schedule A and Schedule C? Okay. So I just dragged and dropped those in, if you didn't notice that. Okay, and then I will click Send. Okay, so I just shared those 3 documents with Christine Carson and Sammy Spouse. Okay, and they can look at those, they can comment, they can write any messages back to me that they would like. All right, so that should be pretty straightforward. Now let's go over to the estate planning workspace thread. I'll click on it. Okay, no guests have access yet. So what am I going to do? When things are unclear, I do what? I go to the gear. I click on the gear symbol here. I click Manage Permissions. I want them both to have access, Christine and Sammy. And now they both do have access. But Christine Carson has asked me to bring in her estate planning attorney. No problem. What am I going to do? I'm going to go to the gear, click Manage Permissions, and I'm going to bring in her estate planning attorney. Let's say that's Lisa Lawyer. There we go. I just brought in Lisa Lawyer like that. Now Lisa Lawyer is going to have access to this information as well. So let me add in some documents here that are estate planning-ish, about a last will and testament and a living trust document and life insurance policy. There we go. Okay, so I'll just drag and drop these documents in like this. And then I'll type a message. Let's work on estate planning issues and welcome Sammy and Lisa. Okay. All right. So now all 3 of those individuals have access to these 3 documents right here. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to go over to the workspace thread called My Reference. Okay. You'll notice that it's private. No guests have access yet. And guess what? I don't want anybody else to have access to this particular workspace thread. I'm going to add some documents in here. How about, I'm just going to pick some random documents here. Inspection report, fiduciary agreement, and personal financial statement. All right, so I'll pull those 3 documents in here. And then I'm going to click Send, but there are no guests to receive this. I'm simply sending it into Verifyle. And now those 3 documents exist in Verifyle in a secure, encrypted format, just like other documents that are in Verifyle that I happen to be sharing with somebody. But I'm the only one who can access these, right? Nobody else is going to see them, unless perhaps in the future I bring a partner onto my business. And then at that point, I might decide to actually share these documents with my business partner or whomever. Okay, so what's happened here is that for this new and potentially very solid client of mine, client Christine Carson, I've created this workspace called Client Christine Carson, okay? And I've set up 3 different workspace threads, and different people have access to each of these workspace threads, right? So different people are seeing different information depending upon what makes sense given this situation, which I'm managing in conjunction, of course, with my client, Christine Carson, with respect to who should see what information. And then I've also got this workspace thread that nobody's going to see but me, because I'm using it effectively for secure storage, right? So I'm basically able to orchestrate this entire workspace. I'm able to act as quarterback, if you will, to make sure that the right people get access to the right information on a need-to-know basis, all decided by me. And I can add anybody and remove anybody from any of these workspace threads. None of the guests can do that. Only I, the host of the workspace, can do that. Okay? And I can also click on any of the guest names individually if I want to have just a one-to-one communication with that particular person. All right, let's see what this looks like from the perspective of the client, Christine Carson. Okay, I'm in as the client, Christine Carson, and I would have received an email alert, but I can also see the internal alert here that there's a new workspace called Client Christine Carson. And when I go into here, I can see, oh, there's an estate planning thread, there's a tax planning thread as well. Okay, so I, the client, Christine Carson, am only seeing the 2 workspace threads that my tax professional, the host of this workspace, Dana, has given me access to, okay? And if Dana is really on the ball and I'm the type of client who would appreciate it, not all clients would, but there's an option here for Dana to really lay out a portfolio view of my entire tax and finance situation here. In other words, if I work in heavy equipment or real estate, maybe Dana wants to create a workspace thread here called depreciation schedule. And if I'm doing a lot of philanthropic things, maybe there needs to be a workspace thread that Dana creates and it's called donations or something to that effect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If I've got out-of-state property, maybe there's a workspace thread called out-of-state holdings. So whenever I, the client, Christine Carson, sign in here, I can click into any of those workspace threads to see the relevant comments and advice and documents. And I can check whether or not just the right people have access to each of those workspace threads. So in fewer words, what I'm trying to communicate to you is that for those clients of yours who you are doing deep communications with and who would appreciate that level of professionalism, they might really like to be able to come into Verifyle and see that portfolio view of their situation. Okay, now drilling into the workspace threads that we actually have here that Dana has given Christine Carson access to. And of course, you noted that Christine cannot see the workspace thread called My Reference that Dana created because Christine Carson wasn't given access, right? All right, but I dive in here and I go into tax planning, and as I go in and look at these different documents, whether I click here or whether I click over here, that gets rid of the individual alerts here. I can also go into estate planning and clear the alerts. Let's say for the life insurance policy, I click on it and say that I decide I want to take a look at it. All right, that just sent an email alert to Dana, by the way, and I can click on the life insurance policy here too. And let's say I want to look at it later in detail, very slowly, so I actually decide to download it. Okay, that also just sent an email alert to Dana, and that access instance is logged for Dana to refer to anytime that he would like. Also, as I'm in here, it occurs to me, let's say some months have passed and there are dozens and dozens of documents in here related to estate planning and hundreds of time and date stamped messages, not only from Dana, but from me, Christine Carson, as well as Lisa Lawyer and Sammy Spouse. I come to the conclusion that, you know what? My estate planning attorney, Lisa Lawyer, is not adding much value. Everything she writes in here is pretty obvious to me, even though I'm not an estate planning attorney. And she's very expensive. I don't want her to be involved in my estate planning any longer. Can I remove her? Can I, Christine Carson, remove her from the estate planning workspace thread? No, I can't, because I also am a guest here. Only Dana, the host of this workspace, can remove Lisa Lawyer from here. So I can type a message to Dana to get rid of the attorney, Lisa Lawyer, okay? But if I type it here, Lisa might see it. So I'm going to click on Dana's name right here, and I'll type a message to Dana, something along the lines of get rid of this attorney, et cetera, maybe not quite in such a blunt way. But anyways, let's say I send that message to Dana, and now let's go back and look from Dana, the tax professional's perspective. And there's the message from Christine Carson to get rid of Lisa Lawyer, the attorney, et cetera, okay? And being the host of this workspace, right? Being the host, Dana Shibley of this workspace, I can simply go to the estate planning workspace thread like that. Okay, I see Lisa Lawyer has access, but I can go to the gear, I can click on manage permissions, and I can remove her access just like that. Okay, now Lisa Lawyer no longer has access to any of the information in here, although any comments or documents she added will remain for Christine and Sammy, right? And let's say that Christine now informs me that she wants to have a new attorney, a new estate planning attorney. No problem. All I need to do, of course, is go to the gear symbol, click on manage permissions, and add that new attorney. Let's say that new attorney is Lenny Lawyers. Okay, so I took out Lisa Lawyer, and I have now added Lenny Lawyers. Lenny Lawyers would see the entire historical transcript of all messages and documents that have been typed in here by Christine, Sammy, myself, Dana, the tax professional, and also the prior attorney, Lisa Lawyer, who no longer has access to this information. So that's an extremely valuable thing to do. Imagine bringing a new person into your firm, and then you also fired the person that new person is replacing, for example. You could easily remove the old employee and bring in the newer employee in about 20 seconds. And then you could ask that newer employee, or in this case, Lenny Lawyers, to, hey, look through all this information here, and then type a message, let's all get together this Friday at X p.m. in the afternoon, and let's discuss these issues, because Lenny Lawyers or the new attorney or the new employee will be completely up to speed on all of those issues. Imagine trying to do that using email or email attachments. It's pretty darn near impossible. Okay, the other thing I want to point out here is I want to know who's looked at the life insurance policy. Because it's a non-standard life insurance policy, it has some pretty complex tax ramifications. I want to know who's looked at it. So all I need to do is click on the gear symbol here. Remember, gear symbols are everywhere, right? All I need to do is click on the gear symbol next to the life insurance policy, and then I'm going to click on View Access History. I can see Sammy's spouse hasn't looked at it yet, Lenny Lawyers hasn't looked at it, but Christine Carson has accessed it twice, okay? And if I click here, I can see the exact dates and times that Christine has looked at this. And if she looked at this 28 times in the last 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever, I would see every single one of those instances here, okay? And if she has looked at this document, for example, 10 times in the last couple of weeks, that's probably a good tip-off to me that there's a way that I can add some real value to my communications with Christine and help her understand what this document's all about and what the tax ramifications are, right? And similarly, if I can see that she just looked at this document 20 minutes ago and I have a call with her in a half hour, I know that I should probably be on my toes and ready to address any questions that she has about the life insurance policy. So all of this is part of Verifyle helping you to raise your situational awareness in terms of what's happening on the other side of your communication. Okay, when you're in Verifyle, you should also know that no matter where you are, at any time, whether you're inside of a private message, okay, or you're inside of a workspace thread, at any time you can click on someone's name to see when they were last inside of that communication, regardless of whether or not they added any information. Well, Lenny Lawyers hasn't even been in here yet. That's okay, I just gave him access 5 minutes ago, right? But Christine Carson, I can see, was last in here at 11:35 a.m. So even if she didn't add any information, at a minimum, I have kind of some sense of the recency of this information inside of her mind. Again, helping you just be on your toes as you service your client. Okay, one thing here I want to really drive home that's important. If you talk to people who have recently started using Verifyle, they'll tell you that the reason that they began using it is because they heard it's very easy for professionals and their clients to use. Or maybe because they get unlimited digital signatures compliant with the IRS. Or maybe it's because of the security that I talked about earlier. But if you talk to people who've been using Verifyle for a handful of months, they'll tell you that what's really great about Verifyle is the ease of use and the fact that inside of a workspace, like the client Christine Carson workspace that we've just created right here, it becomes very simple in that in this single screen, if you will, I can see all the key people involved with client Christine Carson. I can see all the key topics here, and I can easily access and see exactly who's got access to what information. And when you take all kinds of information that often is scattered all over the place and you bring it into one single tangible place, a mental map, if you will, it helps make that whole situation more concrete, and it allows our minds to think more strategically about how to move a situation forward rather than being stuck on, okay, I got to do process A and then process B and then step C, step D, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and this is especially valuable in those situations where you have those clients that you're doing deep communications with, and you're really looking to add that extra value that allows you to maintain that client and just have them love the work that you're doing for them. Someone who I worked with for years expressed this to me as great software allows you to understand more while looking at less. And it allows you to accomplish more while doing less. And the workspace environment really lets you do that. Okay, so you work in an industry where digital signatures is very important. In fact, I'm going to guess that many of you were very excited about this demo because, wow, unlimited digital signatures. I'm paying $2, $3, $5 per digital signature. Okay, no more of that for you. So I'm going to go into the tax planning workspace thread, and I'm going to request a signature. Please sign this doc. All right, I'm going to click on the paperclip symbol here, and let's say engagement letter. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the engagement letter like that. And as you all know, if I click send right now, it will simply share the engagement letter document with Christine Carson and Sammy's spouse. Okay, but I want a signature. So I'm going to click in the box here to request signing, and then I click send like that. Okay, who do I want to sign this document? I want both Sammy's spouse and Christine Carson to sign this document, but actually I want Christine to sign it first. She has been my main contact. Okay, and now I click next. Okay, for the first signer, Christine Carson, do I want her to agree to the terms? Here's the statement of terms. I agree to do business electronically. You can change this to be anything that you want and save those as default terms. Okay, I'm going to leave these just as is. Okay, yes, I want Christine Carson to agree to these terms right here. And yes, I want to require her to input a one-time signature code as part of this process. Okay, so I'm going to add the mobile phone number at which I know she can receive a text that's automatically generated and sent to her by Verifyle. Okay, so I'll click next right here. All right, and for Sammy's spouse, I'm going to do the same. Yes, I want him to agree to these terms below, to agree to do business electronically. And yes, I want to require him to input a one-time signature code. So I'm going to add his mobile number, just like that. Okay, here's the engagement letter. I'm going to increase its size a little bit to make it easier to work with. And for Christine Carson, I want her to sign the engagement letter right here. Okay, I can click in this rectangle and decide exactly what I want in here. Signature, initials, dates in a different format. Maybe I want it to be a custom field. I want her signature to go here. And let's just say that I want the date to go here. Okay, and so I click next signer like that. And for Sammy's spouse, the second signer, let's just say I want his signature here. And let's say that I want his, initials to be there. All right. And now I can finish request, but I want to point something out to you real quick here. I do have the option, since I've gone ahead and determined exactly where information should be filled in on this particular engagement letter. And I use this engagement letter with all of my clients. I use it a lot, right? So I can create a template which essentially stores where and what information is required on this document. So I might save this template as, for example, I might name it engagement letter for a couple. All right, if it was a single person, I might call it engagement letter for a single person. So in the future, when I pull this document in, I don't need to, again, go through the process of drawing the boxes in just the right place and indicating what information needs to go in each box. So you can do that very easily on your own time. I wanted to point that out to you. Okay, so I'm going to finish this request. All right, submit it. Okay, so Christine has been notified to sign the engagement letter, and after she signs it, Sammy will be notified. All right, so let's go ahead and sign in now as Christine Carson. All right, I'm in as Christine Carson. I would have received an email alert, and I can also see in here the internal alert to click here to sign the engagement letter. So I, Christine Carson, the client, will click here to sign the engagement letter. Do I agree to do business electronically? I'm going to click on yes, because if I click no, I won't be allowed to proceed. So I, Christine Carson, click on yes. And I have to allow a signature code to be sent to me as part of the identification process. So I click there. And now I, Christine Carson, am going to check my mobile phone for that one-time signature code. Okay. And I'll type that in like that. Click submit. All right, I confirm my signature. Okay, and I confirm, yes, I'm okay with my signature going here, and I'm okay with the date going here, just like that. Okay, I, the client, just digitally signed that document. Again, note here that Sammy has now been notified to sign. But let's go see what Dana sees from his perspective. So I'm back in as Dana, the tax professional. I can see that Christine has signed the document, okay, and I can click on the document here, or I can click on it over here. Okay, let's preview it, take a look at it, and if I scroll down, I can now see that Christine Carson has signed and dated this document. And at any time that I would like, I can go ahead and I can click on the gear icon right here. I can click on View Signing Information to see the full document signing audit report, which includes all the metadata associated with me requesting the digital signature and that Christine Carson has signed it, agreeing to do business electronically and accepting the terms, right? And her IP address has also been captured per IRS requirements. Okay, we're not going to go through that same signature process for her husband, Sammy's spouse, because I think you have the idea. And after Sammy does sign it, then his signing information will also be added to this document signing audit report. And at any time I would like, I can click print right here to print out a soft copy, PDF copy of this report, or a hard copy as I would like, okay? And all of you should know that with your Verifyle Pro system, at any time you can preview a document. You have the ability to edit it as much as you would like in the following way. You can simply click on the pencil icon right here, and then you can change the order of pages in any document. You can also click on the X to delete pages in any document. You can click on Add Annotation in order to add notes to any document that you would like, and then you can save that information. You can also click on Merge Documents to merge multiple documents into a single document, change the order of pages, et cetera, as you would like. All right, so I'm going to close out of this, okay? And I will also point out to you, because this is a common question that comes up, and that is that whenever you're inside of Verifyle, whether you're in Workspaces or Contacts, at any time, you can click on this little sort tab here at the top right, okay? And when you click this tab, you can decide whether you want the information to, over here, to be sorted by updated date, which is basically recency. That's how I like it. But some people like it to be sorted by first name. Other people like it to be sorted by last name, and also by email address. Let's leave that at recency or updated date, okay? So I do want to point something out to you real quickly here, since we're getting a little short on time. And that is that I want to show you a situation that I created in advance, a workspace. So it's the workspace I created for the Rockefeller family, okay? So this is a family that for example, has quite a few things going on with regard to taxes, with regard to finances generally. Let's say they run a couple of small businesses. They have a lot of estate-related issues going on. They definitely work with a number of other professionals. It's a high net worth family, and they're doing a lot of things, and they're a major client of mine. Okay, so I'm going to click on the Rockefeller Family Workspace. And the main person that I work with here is Ricky Rockefeller. And for Ricky Rockefeller and the other people in his network, I've set up a number of workspace threads, including a tax considerations workspace thread, an estate planning workspace thread, legal requirements, cash flows, et cetera, et cetera. Again, they have a lot going on. And my main contact, again, is Ricky Rockefeller. And you can see in here a number of documents, including an asset list, a last will and testament, and also a life insurance policy. Okay, and you can imagine that many people in his network, including immediate and extended family members like Rhonda Rockefeller and Susie's stepsister, are extremely interested in this kind of information, as are other professional services providers that he works with, including Larry Lenderbank, his banker, Ellen Executive, his business partner, and Albert Advisor, his financial advisor. Okay, now, of course, I, as his go-to tax professional, am going to do an A+ job in servicing Ricky Rockefeller. That's for granted, right? He expects that from me. But above and beyond that, there's a phenomenal opportunity for me to add value to Ricky Rockefeller above and beyond what he expects. So there's the possibility for me, in conjunction with Ricky Rockefeller, on a need-to-know basis, to selectively share information with those people in his network, those family members, and those professional services providers, to in fact act as a secure steward of his information on a need-to-know basis out to all of those individuals. Again, in conjunction with lots of communication with Ricky Rockefeller, I can serve that role as that professional steward of his information and making sure that the right people always have the right information at the right time and have confirmation that they have it as well, and change that as necessary. Okay, how sticky of a role is that in the world of Ricky Rockefeller? Extremely, okay? And not only is that a way for me to add value above and beyond what is probably expected by Ricky Rockefeller, but it's a fantastic way for me to also expand my network and show the level of professionalism at which I can work and expose myself to those key people inside of his network as well. All right. So some of you are probably listening to this and saying, hey, Dana, you're a software guy. Keep to what you know and go ahead and finish the demonstration. But I point this out to you because you are like me and all attorneys and people in the education field and financial professionals, in that all of us have no real hard, tangible, physical product at all. We work in a world of information, relationships, and laws. So the bar for performance for all of us is going to raise substantially over the next several years. And I think that all of us, as knowledge workers, if you will, are going to have to really compete hard to find that extra value to add to all of our clients. And here's a way that you can add value to your client, but also grow your network potentially of people that can become clients of yours in the future. All right, I'll step off my soapbox and move on here. Okay, so as all of you know, at any time you can click on contacts, you can click on the plus symbol here. This is the way you want to get started in Verifyle, right? Add an individual's name and start securely communicating with that person. However, you also have the ability to bulk import contacts into Verifyle. And that way your contacts list will immediately look like this, right? And you will be able to immediately begin sharing with people securely using Verifyle. How do you bulk import contacts into Verifyle? You use the CSV file format, which is the standard file format that software companies use to export and import contact information. Okay, if you go to youtube.com and type in Verifyle contacts, you'll see a very short, easy to understand video on how to do that. If you have any challenges with that at all, just email us at any time at support@verifyle.com with any questions that you have, and we're happy to help you out. And once you have all those contacts in, that also makes it much easier to build out your workspaces as well. Okay, so moving forward, at any time you can click on your name at the top right, and then you can go into account settings. Here you can change your name if you would like, you can change your email address, you can change your digital signature, you can swap out the default logo, which is the OATC logo, or any logo of your choosing, okay? And you can do a number of other things as well here. I don't want to go into all the details here. You do have the ability to request payment using Verifyle. If you click on Show Details here, you'll see a video, a short video on how to do that. You can see that I have used a tiny fraction of 1% my overall storage of 250 gigabytes. I don't think we ever have anyone from your industry bump up against that limit. If so, it's very, very rare. You have a lot of space, a lot of encrypted storage space. And I would leave these default settings as is. Automatically send alerts. The default setting is for that to be on. That makes it so that whenever you add any information into Verifyle, automatically an email alert is sent to the intended recipient or recipients. Document activity alerts. These are the alerts that you receive whenever somebody has looked at or downloaded information you put in Verifyle for them. And if you become a very, very avid user of Verifyle and you're in Verifyle very frequently, maybe you want to turn those off, but that's up to you. Okay, message edit. So right now, message edit capability is on. You do have the ability to turn off edit capability for those workspaces that you are the host of, right? And that makes it so that neither your client nor you can change any information inside there once it has been added, okay? Okay, block list. Blocking somebody in Verifyle is not a bad thing. It simply makes it so when that person adds information inside of Verifyle, you won't receive that email alert, although you will still see the alert inside of Verifyle. So for example, if I have somebody in my office who I'm talking to all the time, they're telling me when they're sharing stuff with me and so forth, and I go into Verifyle pretty frequently, I might block that person, right? Okay, language, there are 3 languages right now. We have English, Spanish, and French. We will be adding more languages. Here you can see that you can change your password. Session management, I recommend that all of you go into here. If you click on session management, first of all, you will see if you have any sessions open in other browsers or on other devices, and you can close them out here. But most importantly, you can click on this little slider right here and indicate to Verifyle the amount of time after which, if you have forgotten to log out of your Verifyle system, Verifyle will automatically log you out. I like to leave it at about 1 or 2 hours. Okay, very important. Okay, and here you can choose what type of 2-factor authentication you would like to use. Okay, the 2-factor authentication set up by phone is by far the easiest one to use. Okay, all right, so with that in mind, I want to go back here and point out a few things to you here. Let me look in the questions area. Okay. Yes, Verifyle is free. Verifyle Pro is free to all of you as OATC members. Yes, you do get unlimited digital signatures capability. Yes, it is compliant with the IRS. There is a file size limit, but it's extremely large. So for all practical purposes, you don't have a file size limit. For practical purposes, your real file size limit is dependent upon how good your internet connection is. Okay, so that's not something you need to worry about. Someone is asking whether the receiver needs to set up a Verifyle account. Okay, that's a really good question. Yes, but it's a super simple process. Basically, all they need to do is create a password. So it doesn't feel like a setup process at all. Okay, by the way, when you reach out to your clients, for those of you who are new users of Verifyle, what you do not want to do is send an email to all of your clients saying, hey, go to verifyle.com and log in, create a password, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's absolutely the wrong way to do it because they'll go through that process and there's going to be nothing there for them. That's a really bad first experience. What you want to do is send an email, perhaps using BCC, a regular old-fashioned email to all your clients saying something along the lines of, In the interest of protecting your information from this point forward, we will be using Verifyle to share information back and forth. Please have a heads up for an email alerts that you will receive inviting you into Verifyle. Okay, so send that to all your clients, that old-fashioned email, and then go into Verifyle and add information for each of those clients, and Verifyle will automatically send an email alert to all those clients, which they can click on, and that'll bring them into Verifyle, and there'll be something there for them, whether that's a single document or a welcome note from you or whatever, okay? So very, very simple process for them. Okay, the other thing is someone's asking me how long that information stays inside of Verifyle. You should keep in your mind that generally speaking, information you put in Verifyle remains in Verifyle. But there are some caveats to that. If it is a workspace that you are the host of, that you have created, then you, as the host of that workspace, have a lot of power. So for example, as the host of this workspace, client Christine Carson, I can go in here and I can click on the gear symbol for the estate planning workspace thread. Let's say that I want to delete the estate planning workspace thread. All I need to do is click right here to delete this thread. Nobody can do this except me. Watch this. All right, yes, I want to delete it. And now the estate planning workspace thread is gone, okay? And I can remove any people that I would like from this workspace thread as well by clicking their name right here and clicking remove guest from workspace, okay? Similarly, I can go to list here where I can see all the workspaces. And let's say that I want to delete this entire workspace for client Christine Carson. I can do that. It's a two-step process, okay? Because it would be a real bummer to delete an entire workspace with years of information accidentally. So I can go to the gear, right? Gear symbols everywhere. When things are unclear, I go to the gear. And then I click on Archive Workspace. That's the first thing I'm going to do, all right? So that workspace, client Christine Carson, is no longer in the colored active workspace area. Down here in gray, client Christine Carson, and I can click here on the gear symbol, and I can automatically unarchive the workspace, which will push it back up here. And by the way, if anybody adds information to a workspace while it's down here in the archived area, yes, it will automatically pop back up into the active colored area, okay? But if I still want to manually delete this workspace, I'll click on the gear icon right here, and then I will click on delete workspace like that. I click OK, and now the client Christine Carson workspace is completely gone, okay? So only I can do that because I'm the host of that workspace. Okay, time to wrap up. I want to thank OATC for being very easy to work with and get this all rolling. I think you guys are all going to really love using your Verifyle Pro systems. If you have any questions at all beyond the ones that we've talked about today or that you've written already, at any time, feel free to email us at support@verifyle.com. And thank you very much for participating and sticking around through today's presentation, everybody. And look for some follow-up from me that you should be receiving in the next half hour or so. Just a little bit of extra information to help you think about some situations where Verifyle will be useful for you beyond those that I've shown here today. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great afternoon. Bye.